Hi everyone, I just want to say a really big thank you and welcome to our first live event, which is An Evening In with Way Outside. I'm really excited actually because we've got four speakers and we've got John Kynaston who's hosting it. Thank you so much, John.
Pleasure.
And it's going to be a mixture of trail running and wild swimming. I think you can see John now as well.
Yep.
And I just want to let you know that if you comment on this link, we'll see it and you can ask questions as the talks are going on. So feel free to drop in some comments. That would be brilliant. And we're going to kick off with ultra runner, mountain runner and coach Sophie Grant. And she's going to have a little bit of a chat with us about staying motivated during lockdown and training during this time. So I'm going to hand you over to John Kynaston and Sophie Grant. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so welcome everybody. We've got Sophie. I'll swap the cameras over in a minute and we'll get Sophie on. So thank you very much, Sophie, for being with us. And as Stacey just said, if you've got any comments, any questions that you want to ask, then feel free to put them in the comments there and we'll ask those as we go along. And it might be nice just to get a little bit of a sense of where you're watching from. So at the moment we've got 24 people who are with us live. So if you want to put a thumbs up or a love heart, then you're welcome to. Or if you want to just, ask a question or a comment, then please do that as we go along. So we're going to start with our chat with Sophie, and I'm just going to swap the cameras around so we can see Sophie. Welcome, Sophie. And if you don't know Sophie, I've got a little bit of description about here. Sophie's going to talk a little bit about training during lockdown, keeping motivated and van life. Kiwi-born ultra runner and coach Sophie specialises in long mountain races and has been on the podium in top international races such as UTMB, Labrador Ultra Trail and Trans Gran Canaria. She has represented GB at the World Trail Championship and was the 2018 UK Sky Running Champ. And I must admit, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say, Sophie. So tell us a little bit about yourself and about your training, please.
Hi, John. Thank you very much for having me on here. It's exciting to hang out with you guys. So it's a bit weird, isn't it? Lockdown, all of a sudden our races are taken, our kind of freedom to roam has been taken. And for a good cause. So for me, I've lost a lot of races so far this year. That's fine. We all have. So I've adjusted the goalposts a little. I've booked some races at the end of the year. Hopefully we'll get to do those. If we don't, that's okay too, because you know what? There are bigger things going on right now. I think staying motivated in this time can be a little tricky. I think that, we're like, a month in now? And most of us have done some stair challenges, some backyard runs, some virtual races, all that sort of stuff. So I wanted to talk to you guys about how to continue to stay motivated whilst we keep going through this. I would like to say that it's everybody's got different kind of environments that they've got to work with. That's really tricky. Some people have got hills, some people have got crowded cities. But one of the best pieces of advice that I can give you is to write it down, write down a plan. We've got 3 weeks at least, we know. So write something down, figure out what you're going to do each week, and then try and work towards it. It's easier to get up and start each day knowing what you have to do rather than thinking about it as you go along. I think that having some consistency in this time is also really helpful. I think, if you get up and you don't know what you're doing each day, it can be tricky. I think it's a really good opportunity to readjust your goals, to look at possibly okay, so you've lost a spring marathon. It's going to happen at the end of the year. Maybe this is the time where you can maybe look at a faster goal or a different kind of goal and work towards that. It's these extra months that we have to train, make the most of them. I think as well, for those of us who are missing the mountains, you know, they will be there when we get there. They will still be big. There will be races in them. I think, you know, it's, what have I done? I've moved you around, sorry. Yeah, I think that if you have mountain races coming up, use what you've got. You've got stairs, you know, you've got hills, maybe look at doing some of that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, I think as well, we've all got to be a bit kind to ourselves. Like, it's tricky. It's been a bit of an emotional roller coaster doing this, you know. And I think some days are going to be really good days, and I think some days you're going to want to get up and train, and I think some days you're not going to want to get up and train.
Sophie, could I just ask, say for example someone has got a race that they were planning to do this summer, maybe in 2 or 3 months' time, and now it's been cancelled and it's not running till next year. What advice would you give to someone as they prepare for that, now a race 15 months away rather than 3 months away?
So you've got a really big opportunity to build your base. You know, like, if your race has been taken away and it's been moved, okay, think about what your goal was and think about what it may now could be in a year, you know, like, you've got the opportunity to really work on that. And I think look for some other adventures as well. Like, that's great, you've got that race, you're still going to be working towards it, but maybe look for something that is in November or December. Look for another adventure that you can work towards, and it doesn't have to be a race either. It could be a multi-day, like, adventure packing trip with your friends. It might be, one of my favorite things to do is to actually go on recce race routes. And it might not be a race that you're ever going to run, but you might think, actually, you know, I want to go and see what the West Highland Way looks like. I want to plan a trip where I do, you know, the fling over 3 days. So look at other things that you can kind of do that don't necessarily revolve around a race or things working again, you know, and still know that in the back of your head you've got that race coming up, so you can plan and do all that sort of stuff for that, and maybe try and do it a little faster because you've got more time to train for it.
Yeah. I've been putting comments on. There's been quite a few people just saying hello from various places. And Robert Snodgrass wants to know, what's the background behind me? So I'm not going to tell him just yet, but if anyone can tell me what is behind me, then I was going to say there'd be a prize, but I'm not sure if there is one. But if anyone wants to put a comment in there, it'll be good.
You can send a prize.
Oh, Stacey says she can send a prize. So there will be a prize if anyone can guess what is behind me on my screen. So what about you, Sophie? Have you got any races that you were planning for that have been cancelled, and what are you? How are you coping with it?
So far, I've lost the London Marathon, Lavorado, Euphoria del Sims, a bike race, the Maratona, a couple of sky races. I had a pretty busy summer. So yeah, I've lost a lot of races. I feel that I'm in a position where I've done a lot of racing over the years, so I'm lucky that I have that to think about and to know that those races will be there again next year. But I've moved my goalposts. I've booked Oman UTMB, which is December. You know, hopefully we'll get to do that. I'm also in for the TDS and Tromso, which may or may not happen. I'm not sure. I mean, that's, I think, the start of August. But I think, you know, it sucks losing races and it sucks not being able to be free, but it's a bigger picture situation right now.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's not the end of the world losing a race.
Yeah.
I'd much rather that people are safe than, you know, me go and put people at risk. And I mean, as this was kind of happening before they sort of cancelled the London Marathon, I didn't even want to go and run it anyway, because actually I didn't feel comfortable putting myself into a position where a big group of people unnecessarily, because you could kind of see the way that it was all unfolding. And I think that's what we've got to be thinking about too.
Yeah. I think there's quite a few people guessing the place, and you're right, it's Oban. And so I thought I'd put that on as a tribute to Stacey and Max, because they live just near Oban now. And we've got a comment from someone that might be interesting, Ailes North. She said, I think it's her, maybe train for a different distance. I've decided to train for a 10K instead of an ultra. So do you think that would be good advice? Or
I mean, exactly. You know, like, why not? Because the thing is that you've got shorter, you know, potentially some of us have a shorter amount of time to train. We have, you know, I've spoken to quite a few people who only feel comfortable going out for an hour. They think that that's what they've got. So, you know, use that hour wisely, get some speed, put some fast stuff in there. I will say, though, with that, make sure that you are still having rest days. Really important. I think, you know, a lot of us are using running for our mental health as much as we are for training purposes. And I think that it's very easy to kind of keep just going out every day because you're, you know, now suddenly training for something that maybe is shorter and faster, and you just want to go and use your head up. But I think that definitely changing your race distance, trying something new, you know, why not? As well, like at the moment, we've got the opportunity to kind of, like, no one's training for a race particularly. Go out and do a VK on a local hill. Doesn't matter if you trash your quads a bit. You know, you've got a few weeks before we know what's even going to happen. So go and try something new. Put a challenge in there that's different for yourself. Do a time trial.
Yeah. Okay, and I'll just bring Stacey on, because Stacey, you've got a question that you'd like to ask, I think.
Yeah, so since the West Highland Way race was cancelled, I've lost like all motivation to get out and train. Everything was going really well on plan up to, when was it, March, when was the last day we got out on a long run? So like 3 days before lockdown came in, got up to 32 miles, 5 runs a week. And now, last week I just did 2 runs, that was it. So any tips on keeping motivated for those of us who are motivated by races?
So, what excites you? Figure out what excites you. Like, work to something that makes you really excited. Think about, you know, okay, so it might be next year. It might be the West Highland Way race next year, or it might be something closer. But think about that, and then just do a little bit of planning backwards and go, okay, right, I've got however many weeks or however many months until this exciting adventure. What can I do to break that up, to have small little mini goals in the lead up to that? So if it is the West Highland Way race, right, it's next year. What do you need to do to get in a really good shape for that leading up to it? Is it, once the lockdown comes out, doing, you know, a fast packing trip? And plan for that. Don't worry about the race that's down there. Plan for the stuff that you can that's a bit closer. But also, if you're, you know, you were probably running 5 days a week, write that down. Write down your plan. If you get out for 3 of those, well done. Great. You know, that's excellent. Like, don't beat yourself up at this point in time if you're not managing to hit these like high standards of, I've got to get out 5 days a week. If you get out 4, that's fantastic. I think we all need to give ourselves a little bit of slack in this situation because, you know, as I said, some days are good days and some days are not. But I think having mini goals to plan for, having little challenges to do, I think they're fantastic. I think that they keep you motivated. The other thing I would say is get a group together. Get a WhatsApp group together and do something that is going to either support your running. So it might be, I mean, I've got a WhatsApp group going at the moment with a couple of my athletes, and we're doing the Joe Wicks 28-day challenge. So it's like 10 minutes every day of strength training for 28 days. And having that WhatsApp group keeps us honest and keeps you motivated because you don't want to let the other people down in it. So find a partner in crime, build a goal, and then work towards it together.
Great.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think that's the end of our little slot here now, Sophie. So just want to thank you so much for being with us and sharing that wisdom. And maybe you can just finish by just any last tips or any encouragement for those that are listening.
Do you know what? I think we're all going to come out of this, and it is going to be a wonderful moment when we can all be back together on the trails. Like, I miss you guys all so much. I miss seeing all of the runners out there. And I tell you what, to anybody who's picked up running since this has started, please keep going. That would be wonderful. It would be really cool if there were more runners out of it, you know, how amazing to come out of it with something new.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to say I miss you all, and I cannot wait to see you all again on the trails.
Yeah. And again, thank you so much for sharing with us tonight, and we wish you all the best when we can get back out there and we can take part in races and various events. So thank you very much.
Pleasure. Bye, guys.
Okay, I'm going to bring in two more people now. We've got Vicky Allen and Anna Duncan. So thank you very much, guys, for coming to share with us. And they're writers and photographers as well as outdoor swimmers, and visited the Open Sea and Loch Swimmers group to interview swimmers. Their beautiful and uplifting book, Taking the Plunge. So for the next few minutes, we're going to find out a little bit about this book and a little bit about them, and we've got some questions as well. So first of all, welcome, ladies. Thank you very much for joining us. And again, I'm just going to swap round so we get you on the main screen. So we're going to start with Vicky, and you're going to tell us a little bit about the book, Taking the Plunge.
Yeah, hi. So I'm just going to show you the book, in fact. That's Taking the Plunge, and it's got the subtitle, The Healing Power of While Swimming for Mind, Body and Soul. And I'm the writer, and Anna's the photographer. And it's a book that really tried to do a lot of things. It's got like a bit of science. Is there something wrong?
Yeah. No, I'm okay. Carry on. Yeah. Don't carry on.
Am I doing something wrong though?
I don't know. No, you're fine.
Okay. So anyway, so the whole principle of the book was to bring together basically a lot of people's stories about why they swam, and so it's a book about community as well. And in fact, one of the communities that got involved was Stacey and Max and the Open Seals. So that was so they're in there too, and it's also got lots of amazing photos in from Anna. And one of the things I really feel looking at it now is it's got that sense of us all being together. And I mean, I'm feeling a lot of nostalgia looking at those pictures of people sort of, I don't know if I can show some of them, just groups of people sort of plunging into the water together, which obviously is a thing that we're not actually able to do right now. But, you know, we will be back there again. And so that's it really. That's what the book's about, essentially.
Yeah. I'm just putting a picture on, actually, Vicky, of the one where there's a big line of swimmers just about to go into the water or just coming out.
Yeah.
So that's
amazing.
From the book.
And that one was from last year. But we did presumably it's the International Women's Day swim picture, and we did another one of those swims this year. And I mean, how many people were in the water this time? I think it was about 300 or something. It's hard to believe that happened just weeks before we were all in lockdown and not able to get together and swim anymore. But, you know, we can look back and remember that we'll be back there again.
Yeah, there's a comment from Barbara Sayers. She said it's a great book. I got it for Mother's Day from my boys. So she's enjoying it. Okay, I'm going to bring Anna in now. Anna, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm going to see if I can swap you round. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so Anna, you're going to tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write the book.
Well, it started off as a photography project, and I started photographing swimmers where I swim down in Edinburgh in a little beach, and I just got really inspired when I started photographing them. hearing their stories about why they were going to the water. And there was some extraordinary stories coming out of it, stories about sort of grief or loneliness or, stress, mental health issues, physical pain, all sorts of things. And through going to and in the cold water, they were able to sort of start healing themselves, if that makes sense. They were able to start meeting new people. They were finding relief from pain with the cold water. The process of going and swimming and being in that very mindful state was helping people with their mental health. And so that's really where the project began, as a photo project. And then I met Vicky through a mutual friend, and she said, Vicky, she's a writer, you're a photographer, you both like wild swimming, why didn't you do a book together? Which we kind of laughed about, but actually we did. And so about a couple of months after meeting, we actually had a meeting with an agent and we got a book deal. And very quickly, this little project grew arms and legs and became a book. So that's kind of the start of it, really. And then we just travelled all over Scotland meeting extraordinary swimmers. We would have loved to have gone further afield, but we just didn't really have the budget. And we had some wonderful swims, especially we really enjoyed our swim with Max and Stacey and the gang there. We went out to Easdale Island and it was such a beautiful spot. We just had the most amazing year. And like Vicky said, it's hard to imagine that was not that long ago. And now I walk or run down to the sea most days and then I just look at it and look forward to the next time I can actually get in it. But yeah, so that's how the book came about. And we had an extraordinary short deadline. What would we had about 6 months, Vic, to finish the book? Maybe it was slightly less.
Felt like less. It was less. It was definitely less.
It wasn't long. It got to record time. It was crazy. And then it sort of went crackers and we went down to London and we went on the Joe Wiley show and all this mad stuff happened with a big rush and a flurry. Yeah.
We've had a comment from Lindsay Johnson. She says, I have a copy signed by Lewis Pugh and Max. So she's very proud of that.
It's one that Colin auctioned for charity.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is that the one? And Ben Fogel as well? I think there was a few people that signed it.
Right.
Oh, great. I already got that. Fantastic.
Good. Okay, well, we've got a little treat now because Vicky's going to read part of the book. So I'll swap you round. Okay, so Vicky, you're going to just read a little extract from your book.
Yeah, that's right. And I thought I'd choose the chapter that's on mindfulness because I feel like that's what we could all do with a bit right now to get us through all this. And it doesn't always just have to be applied to wild swimming or whatever else we're talking about. But Calming the Mind's Storms is the title of the chapter. There's no escaping it. When you get into the water, particularly cold water, there's something about that shock to the system that brings you right into that moment, into the present and what is happening physically in you and around you. You're there, alive, uncomfortable, aware of everything around you as well as what's going on in your body. The shock makes it almost impossible not to be. The loudest voice in your mind is likely to be the one that is telling you, this is cold. And once you've quietened that, suddenly you are there, alive to the world, hearing, seeing, feeling. Most wild swimmers will talk about this sensation of being in the moment. And when they talk about it, they will often use the word mindfulness. But you don't have to be a deliberately mindful swimmer to experience the there-ness. The bracing cold, the immersion, the all senses nature of the experience bring you, whether you like it or not, right into the now. Psychotherapist and mindfulness coach Angie Cameron has long been encouraging people to find this in swimming. She observes, what I think the sea does is make us feel really alive. The sea is there. There's no disputing it. When you're in the water, you're not going way off in your head thinking about your work and kids or whatever else. The experience of the water is right there, and because of that, it creates that mindfulness that comes with being present. We're not thinking about our bills and our shopping or whatever has caused us hurt or pain. For Angie, the sea is itself an anchor, that's what she calls it, to help us focus on the here and now. The physical sensations it creates work in the same way as the breath might in other deliberate mindfulness practices. When the mind stops churning so much, she says, and we get into our bodies more, we are in touch with the physical sensations. That in itself is mindful. We're using it as an anchor. Every time our thoughts are flitting off to something else, we come back to the swimming or our physical sensations when in the water, and this allows us to feel more embodied. These days, mindfulness can seem both everywhere, so common that versions of it have been dubbed muck mindfulness, and also elusive and difficult. But mindfulness, as ice swimmer Gilly MacArthur points out, is already there in all of us. We human beings, she says, are all mindful, but we just don't realise that we are. So when you have that first sip of coffee in the morning, for that first 3 seconds you are being present. You're just thinking, I'm here and not anywhere else. Mindfulness is observing the present moment without judgment. For Gilly, the mindfulness of wild swimming comes to her at the point at which she immerses and is in the water, feeling its coldness, listening to the birds, observing the light on its surface. You are just there, she says. You're in that moment without any extra judgment of time and other things. Obviously, it takes practice, but the more you do it, the more you can be just in that moment. Shall I keep reading? I don't know how much time I
No, you got a few more minutes. That's really good. Some great things there.
Gilly has been through her own hard, dark times. In 2012, she lost her daughter, Elsie, when she was stillborn 41 weeks into her pregnancy. How you can swim through that is unthinkable, she says. What was interesting in that experience, looking back, is how I have a broader understanding that everyone has difficult times in life, and that from deep roots into darkness, it's possible to grow a more beautiful tree. She and her husband were both rock climbers, a pursuit she took up after she became burnt out in a retail career at Gap. In the year after their daughter's death, they decided they would go crack climbing on sandstone pillars in Utah in a bid to do something they loved to help them through the dark times to a happier future. While 100 feet up on one of those rock faces, she fell, hitting a ledge before being left dangling on her rope with a broken back. It was while Gilly was recovering that she found a new space to be mindful and a love of swimming again. What I really enjoyed, she says, about open water swimming was that it was similar to rock climbing. For me, it was an extension of just being in the place, rather than about a measured time and a distance or monitoring things with a device like a watch. It was about kicking off my shoes and getting as close to nature as I could. It was about getting away from distraction and calming right down to being in that moment, in that breath. Mm-hmm. As the water got colder towards winter, she discovered you had to be more in the body to appreciate the cold. If you set an attitude when going into cold water that it's cold, it will be. If you go around screaming and yelping, "Oh my God, it's freezing," then your mind creates what you tell it to create. If we accept it might be uncomfortable and we are okay with that, that's when the magic happens. That is how our minds work. When you're getting into cold water, you have to be really aware of what your breath is doing. And through practice, via meditation and breathing techniques, you can calm everything down. It's hugely liberating. Shall I stop there then?
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you very much. And that gives us a real taste of the book as well. And if people want to buy a copy, where's the best place to get one?
Oh, it's hard to say at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Waterstones or Hive are both delivering.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure people will be able to get hold of it when they want to. So Anna, we're just going to finish your little section, and we've got a third question for you guys, and that was what were your big takeaways from talking to people about what wild swimming means to them?
I think it was realising that most people come to outdoor swimming as a sort of healing process. Whatever it is they might be going through, that going to these cold waters, particularly in Scotland, where even in the summer it's still pretty cold by anyone's standards, you know, it is a mindful process, as Vic said, which really helps so many people with mental health issues, with stress and with depression and with anxiety. You know, the cold water is an extremely healing thing, and it's something that I think we've sort of got out of the habit of. You know, we're very used to comfort, and we're very used to being warm and being somewhere that's sort of comfortable, but actually getting in touch with being uncomfortable is actually a really good thing. I'm sure all of the runners out there will relate to that. You know, have to kind of go through that uncomfortable process to get into a good state. But also the other thing was the sense of community and fun that comes along with it, because a lot of us aren't very good swimmers. I'm certainly not a very good swimmer. I just like going. I like getting in the water and having fun and meeting people and having adventures. And it is a sense of community. We've got people all ages, you know, right every decade almost, you know, right up to sort of in their 90s are doing this on a regular basis. And it's completely inclusive. And it's so friendly. Everyone's just really welcoming. And I think that process is my biggest takeout, that sense of community and the fact that it is a really healing thing. And I think a lot of people are so drawn to it. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, that's lovely. And thank you so much for both Vicky and Anna for sharing with us tonight. And I'm sure there'll be people listening, watching, would like to pick up the book. I'm certainly going to look out for it. And it looks a really interesting book to read about and to some of the things that you shared there. So thank you very much. I was just going to bring Stacey back on just to say hello. And have you got any comments, Stacey, that you'd like to say to the ladies before they head off?
I just want to say really thank you guys for all three of you who've spoken already for coming on. And we were aware that we were putting on a live talk with swimmers and runners, and I'd put out a questionnaire and seen a lot of people. We might have runners or swimmers, but then there was quite a few who do both, and quite a few people who said, I'm a runner, but I really want to try swimming. So I think if anybody has like any other questions they have later, just post the comments on, and I'm sure we can get comments back as well. Both me and Max do both, and so I just thank you all for coming on and giving us those tips. And we love the book; it's actually on our bookshelf. We've got a copy as well. So thank you guys, and thank you, Sophie.
Okay, so I'm going to say goodbye to you two. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you again soon. Okay. And then our next guest that we've got on, so I'm going to, Stacey, I'm going to put you off for a moment. There we go. We're going to swap around there. Okay, so Nicola, welcome.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So you can hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Excellent.
I just wanted to say thanks again to the speakers so far. Really interesting tips and advice from Sophie on running motivation. And my dad actually swims in the sea in the west coast of Ireland every single day.
Wow.
All year round in his Speedos. So I'm definitely going to be buying that book for him. So and for myself as well. So really interesting to hear that. So thanks very much.
Yeah, well, if I can just introduce you, Nicola joined WayOutside for the ultra running training camp last year at By the Way Tyndrum. Nicola's from Ireland and based in Edinburgh, and made her debut on the international running scene in 2014, representing Ireland in the IAAF World Half Marathon Championships. Having only started running at the age of 30, she quickly moved from road to trail running and running longer distances. Along with a marathon PB of 2 hours 33, in 2018, Nicola won the 34-mile Ultra Tour of Edinburgh in a time of 4 hours 37 and came second woman in the 53-mile Highland Fling, a feat she repeated in 2019. In 2019, she qualified and represented Ireland at both the World Trail Championship in Portugal and the World Mountain Championships in Argentina, where she finished 47th in the 42k event last November. We're excited to hear about your experiences racing abroad and your love for running on Scottish trails. So that's a nice introduction, isn't it? So, well done.
Lovely. I know, very kind words from Stacey there.
It
Matt.
was.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we've got a few questions for you, and I've got the right one up. So the first one is, so your training during this COVID-19 lockdown, how is it going? And particularly, have some of your training goals changed, and have you had to adapt during your training during the current lockdown? And just while you think about that, if I can say to anyone watching, if you've got any questions for Nicola, just write them down, and I'll ask those as well. Okay, but if you can start with that one, please.
Yeah, so I'm very, very grateful that we're allowed to get out every day for a run, because I'm quite aware I have friends in Italy and in Spain, and they are not able to get out at all. So I'm really, really grateful that I have an opportunity every day to get out and train. I would say my training has changed a bit. Obviously, I can't go out twice a day, so my one run a day has probably been a bit longer. Probably a bit longer than my coach would like, because I'm trying to get the most out of my one run a day. I live in a basement flat with no garden. So yes, and he did comment that last week my mileage was a little bit bigger than he expected. So I have been getting out very early in the morning, a couple of 4:30 a.m. starts, so that I can get out when there's nobody around, so I don't have to worry about bumping into people. But apart from that, I've been keeping my sessions that I had planned otherwise in there. So, I try and get a little bit of speed work in, a couple of hill reps, and then runs where I just enjoy it. I've been quite creative, so I have been doing zigzag challenges of Arthur's Seat from east to west and then reversing it. So that's quite a fun one. So if anybody wants any details, just I can pass it on. Yep. I've also did a step challenge going through all the old town in Edinburgh. I managed to get 1,676 steps, all different. So that was quite a fun one. So same as Sophie, I've lost a lot of my races for this year. And to be honest, I'm kind of expecting that, it'll probably be November, December before we get anything going again. So I'm expecting a few more to be cancelled. And in line with what Sophie said as well, while it's disappointing, it's not really that important at the moment that our races are cancelled. They'll all be there next year and other years. So that hasn't really affected my motivation for getting out to run as much as some people are finding. I think I just love running. I love being outside, and now more than ever, I'm just so excited to get out every day for my run. Yeah. I
do think, Nicola, that a time like this shows you what your main motivation is. And I think often runners are externally motivated, so they need a race to aim for, they need to lose weight for an event or whatever, or they're intrinsically motivated, which means they just love to run. So would you say that you're definitely intrinsically motivated?
Definitely intrinsically motivated. Yeah. Obviously, I enjoy racing. I love having a goal to work towards. I love races that are abroad, so I get to see new places and meet new people. But ultimately, I just love running and exploring. And my favourite things to do are like little solo multi-adventure trips, doing the Highland Fling route over 2 days, doing the UTMB route by myself over 4 days. I did the Wicklow Way in Ireland last year by myself in January over a few days. That's what I enjoy doing the most, is just being by myself and just exploring and getting a bit lost sometimes. It's part of the adventure. And I do get lost a lot. But, and that's what I am missing, and that's what I'm really looking forward to getting back to. And, I'm already planning what trips I'll get to do after all this and where I'll go. And so definitely that's the sort of thing that motivates me as much as I do love racing, and I do race a lot.
We've got a question here that Stacey had put on from Bex Weeks, and she wanted to know, I'm interested to hear from Nicola what it was like picking up running at the age of 30 and taking it so far. Did you have a background in another sport prior to that?
And it's a really good question. I did. I was a tennis player. So given the size of me, you just wonder what I was doing all those years playing tennis. Probably much more suited to long distance running. But I actually played tennis at quite a high level. So I represented my province in Ireland, and I also played for East Scotland over in the UK. So that was my sport before I kind of accidentally got into running. One of the ladies I played doubles with had entered the Edinburgh 10K, and she couldn't do it. So she gave me her spot, and I did my first 10K in a pair of tennis shoes, K-Swiss tennis shoes, and a yellow hoodie. And I sweated absolutely buckets, but I broke 40 minutes.
Wow.
So somebody was like, wow, that's quite fast. And I was like, I couldn't walk for a few days afterwards. My legs were so sore. But I was always fit. I always had a strong engine. My kind of strength when I played tennis was that I could run around all day and get back every shot, and I never gave up. So I think all those years of playing such a sport kind of stood to me when I moved over to running, and I got addicted quite quickly. I did my first marathon in a Smurfette t-shirt, still in my tennis trainers, and a pair of beach shorts. I didn't have a watch, nothing like that, no idea what pace I was doing. And the first words out of my mouth when I finished were, "I'm never effing doing that again." To which my boyfriend said, "But you've just done 2:58 and you've just come third." And I was like, "I don't care." But yeah, you get the bug very quickly. And I joined a running club, and there I met like-minded people, and the rest is history. And put down my tennis racket then a couple of years later.
Excellent. Well, that's encouraging, because I think it doesn't matter when you start. They reckon that you have at least 10 years of improvement, don't they?
Yes, yeah, and I did find rapidly improved, once I started training properly, and actually I got a pair of running shoes. That made a big difference. And got rid of the yellow hoodie. But yeah, I definitely think once you start training properly and training in a group, I think joining a running club was one of the best things I did. And it was very motivating. And I always encourage people who are starting out to join a running club, because it makes it fun, and that's what it's about, really. Yeah.
Are you still improving, do you think, Nicola?
Yes. So in terms of road running, I've left those days behind me, mainly because I got a lot of injuries. I had a lot of stress fractures, partly because I probably overdid it, definitely because I overdid it. So when I came back after my last pelvic stress fracture, I decided I was coming away from the roads because I just missed running so much. So I moved over into the trails. I am rubbish on trails. My technical skills are absolutely rubbish. If anybody who knows me, I'm great at going uphill. I am absolutely appalling at going downhill. I always ask people for advice. So anybody who thinks they're not good at trail running, wait till you see me. But I'm learning, I'm getting better, or as I say, getting less rubbish going downhill. And, every time I go near Connacht Hill on the West Highland Way, there's certain expletives muttered. It gets worse every time. But, I definitely think my endurance is improving. I'm targeting longer races, getting better at fueling myself for them. And just generally, there's always something you can improve on. And that's what I really love about trail and ultra running. There's always different areas to work on. And for me, it is a technical terrain that I will always need to work on.
We've got a question, because I think a lot of people watching this will hopefully be runners or swimmers, and they take part in races. But not many of us probably get the opportunity to represent our country. So just tell us a bit about what it's like to represent your country. And have you got a favourite race that you've done, either for representing Ireland, or what was it like to win the overall at Edinburgh? So there's a few questions in there.
Yeah. So when I did my road running, I got selected to run for Ireland in the World Half, and I tore my hamstring on the start line, so I never got to finish. It was awful. And then I qualified to run for Ireland in the Europeans in Zurich, and I tore the other hamstring 2 weeks beforehand. So it was awful. And then last year, in a completely different discipline, in the trail running, I qualified to run in the World Trail Championships. And I was determined nothing was going to get in the way. I was going to finish this race. And as I was going down the straight line, I didn't have a great race. I got a bit of cramp. Just wasn't my best ever run. With the team coach threw the Irish flag at me as I was running down the straight line. for the last 400 meters, I got to run with the Irish flag wrapped around my shoulders, and it is the best running moment of my life.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing, and people have got photos of it, and it's my favorite photo. And just that feeling of just running for your country and having the flag wrapped around your shoulders, there was nothing that could actually ever match that. And the few days with my running friends in Ireland, I don't run in Ireland because I'm based in Edinburgh, so I got to meet new people, and they're all so lovely. I had the same experience over in Patagonia later on in the year for the World Mountain Championships, just getting to spend a week with all the other Irish teammates. It's just phenomenal. It's just hard to describe it. And, you know, getting to sing the Irish anthem, you know, at the pre-parade for the event. I mean, these are all just magic memories that will stay with you forever. It's just, I think it's just an amazing experience that you just can't match.
Yeah. And does that motivate you to keep training harder and keep improving?
Yes. Definitely. I mean, I think getting to go away for these trips, I was so lucky last year to get to go to Portugal and Patagonia. I mean, I worked really hard for both of the qualifying events for that, but it was rewarded in spades. And, you know, you remember these moments, and these definitely motivate you on the days when it's hard to get out there, when the weather's awful. And living in Scotland, some days we have awful weather. You know, we have these horrible storms, we have these horrible winds, we have snow, you know, we have blizzards. But, you know, it makes you a better runner. You know, it's all mental training, as I say. You know, it's not meant to be easy sometimes.
No. And have you got a favourite race out of all the ones you've done so far?
Oh yes, that's easy. Jedburgh Ultra.
Oh.
So this is so Jedburgh is the best race ever. It starts off to YMCA by I don't know what you will call the blow up costume. You have to go through a playground. It's mandatory.
Yeah.
So you have to climb around a climbing frame and go down a slide. It's so much fun. And their motto is "Don't be a dick." And so all the T-shirts you get say "Don't be a dick" on it. And you get a little bracelet, which I sometimes give to my boyfriend when he's being a dick and remind him not to be a dick. And it's just the route is fantastic. It's 38 miles, beautiful trails. You get to go over the 3 Eildons, and it's just such a fun event. I've done it twice now, and I missed it last year because I was in Patagonia, and I was actually disappointed to miss it. But I would say that's definitely, I have lots of favourites, but that will be, if I had to pick just one, that's my favourite.
Yeah, I did that race. Yeah, I did that race one year. I think it was the first year they did it, and it was so muddy. And because you go out 10 miles and then you come back, so when we came back, it was. I think I lost my shoe in the mud at one point. Yeah, but you're right. It's a great event. We got a question from Bex Weeks again. Do you have any advice as to how to improve my running pace? Do you think it's better to do short races, short distance as fast as possible and then build a distance, or maintain longer distance and gradually shave time off? So any advice on training to get that good running pace?
I think intervals are fantastic. To get better at running longer distances, if you get faster at shorter distances, it follows. When I was doing my road marathon training, you know, I always did 5Ks and 10Ks regularly. That wouldn't have been my strength as such, but as I got faster at them and I got decent times in the end for them, my marathon times came down hugely. So I definitely think trying to get faster, doing regular interval sessions, and hill reps. Hill reps are strength or speed training in disguise. So I would definitely say that will be a better way of training than just trying to stick with longer runs at a certain pace.
Yeah. Great, thank you very much. And we've had a comment from Kirsten Cowling. She took the photos at the bottom of the slide at Jedburgh. So she probably has
she did. She's got some great ones with me, some crackers.
Yeah. And then the last question we had for you was just thinking about your future. So what are your future plans, goals, looking forward to, obviously beyond the current restrictions? So have you got races planned for the rest of the year?
Yeah, so I think I'm expecting more of my races to be cancelled. My main goal this year was actually to do the Madeira Ultra, and that was actually as a fundraiser for a friend of mine who unfortunately had a bad bicycle accident last year, Kat, and she's now in a wheelchair. So I was fundraising to get her a super duper bike. So I think if I can't do a race this year, I'm looking at doing potentially a fastest known time attempt on the Fife Coastal Path, as a fundraiser for her, because I still want to maintain the fundraising, and I'm expecting that some of the races this year aren't going to go ahead, and that's one that would, I could potentially organise myself. The logistics are a little bit easier. I could get all of you guys involved in helping me, maybe doing some legs and shouting support or abuse. But I think a lot of the races that I had planned to do this year, I'm expecting will probably go ahead next year. Madeira, I've deferred to. Lakeland 50, I've deferred to. Cappadocia is one I'm kind of hoping to do at the end of this year in October. But who knows what's going to happen with these restrictions and what's going to go ahead. So we'll just have to try and enjoy my running until then.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, and we obviously wish you all the best for when the races get back up. And I'm just going to bring Stacey back in and Max. So, do you want to say hello, guys? And any comments for Nicola?
It's all really good. It's all really exciting, and I kind of feel a bit like I have a go at people when they make panels, which are like all male panels, and then I kind of looked at, other than Max and John, I made a panel. Yeah, it's bad. Just kind of looking at our screen, because those of you who are watching, you can't tell, but we can see all of each other. So as we're speaking, we can see each other. So I realised there's a very female panel here, but I think it's great. I'm really glad you're all here. I'd seen some of the comments coming up, and people were asking about outdoor swimming in Oban. So the Oban Seals group is just like just come at your own risk, sort of join in, meet people. We're obviously not running it we don't run it, but it's like a group. It's just a peer-to-peer community group. It's not on at the moment, obviously, but if you did want to ever come along, it's at 9 o'clock? It's meant to be at 8:45 in the morning, but we're always late. So most people turn up about 9 in the morning on Saturdays at Ganavan Sands and Oban. So when it's lifted, everyone's welcome. And the idea is that you could do Oban Seals swimming in the sea and then do park run. So because park run's at 9:30, so the idea is 8:45, swim in the sea, quick get changed, park run. So that's the challenge if anyone's fancying a swim run in Oban, or just a swim or just a run. Thank you so much, Nicola. Nicola, can you show us your dog? Is your dog there?
He's gone back to sleep. I'll go get him.
Oh no, do wake him up.
Yeah. Sarah, I've got a treat for you. Here we go.
Does anyone else have any pets hiding?
Can you see him?
Oh, there's Senna.
I've got a cat, but not hiding.
I've got a couple of guinea pigs, but I don't think you want to see them.
My cat, if I started doing Pilates, my cat would be here, because every time I try and do that, she's on me.
Senna likes to join in for Pilates as well.
Oh, I want a dog so bad. All right.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nicola, and we wish you all the best. And thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate
it.
John.
Thanks,
okay.
Everybody. Bye now.
Bye. Right. Okay. So our next item is Max. So I'm going to get Stacey to introduce Max, because that'll probably be the best thing. So Stacey, do you want to introduce your husband to us, and then we'll ask him a few questions.
So this is my husband, Max. If you guys haven't met him, he's the quieter one of the two of us, I think.
It's not hard.
Thanks. I forgot what I wrote about you because I don't have it written down. You want to introduce? John has what I wrote about Max.
As long as it's nice.
Well,
I'll let John read.
I haven't got it either, actually. Sorry, I thought you were going to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I've got it somewhere.
Yeah.
All right, I've got it here. So, Dr. Max Holloway is a marine physicist living on the west coast of Scotland, where he helped put Lewis Pugh through his paces in preparation for the Antarctic 2020 ice sheet swim. Max holds a PhD in climate science and has undertaken field work in the Arctic and Antarctic. He has enjoyed international success as both an athlete and Olympic coach, and his current sports and passions are open water swimming and mountain running. Max has built years of experience practicing and organising training camps and relished the routine of swimming and running twice a day in the Outer Hebrides in the middle of the Scottish winter alongside endurance swimmer and climate activist Lewis Pugh. So he's going to chat to us a bit about that experience.
Okay.
And I'll hand you over to Max.
Yeah. So we've got one or two questions for you, Max. And maybe the first one would be similar to we asked Nicola. Just thinking about your training during this time. How have your training goals changed, and have you had to adapt your training during this current lockdown?
Yes, I guess the biggest change is I'm just not swimming at the moment, which is quite hard. I think we've managed sort of a 5-minute paddle maybe in the last sort of 4 weeks. So yeah, just stay away from the water at the moment, and just sort of filling time with running, and I'm doing a lot more cycling, a lot more mountain biking now, because I find if I just run, I tend to pick up injuries and things. So I find swimming and running is quite a nice balance. So that's the big change. I mean, we're quite lucky where we are based now. We're in Connell, just outside Oban. So there's a nice hill just outside our window. We've got a lot of good running and good mountain biking, sort of very accessible. And I think it's trying to get some sort of routine really. I mean, we're still working, so just trying to sort of keep some sort of cardio work in the morning, and then do a sort of second, more kind of strength-based session in the evening. And I think in a way I've been quite lucky. So I had I planned quite a light year in terms of races this year. So the main thing was supporting Stacey at the West Highland Way race in June. So if anything, I haven't had to keep an eye on what races are the rolling races getting cancelled. So it was more we had a couple of big sort of multi-day expedition planned, and some stuff like that. So it's been, and a lot of the mountains we were planning to do some trips in, and we can see from our window. So it's been quite hard to look out there every morning and see the hills that you're planning to trip through, but not to be able to get in there. But it's been. I think what Sophie and Nicola said about sort of doing challenges has been quite good. On our local hill outside, as Sophie mentioned, I've been trying to do some sort of going out there and doing a VK or something, and I obviously can't count, because last time I did it I came up 70 metres short in my elevation. So I need to do obviously need to do a few more reps to make that up. But it's just sort of more cycling and sort of trying to keep the running up without getting injured really.
Yeah. If anyone else has got any questions you'd like to ask Max, then just put them on the comments and we'll bring those in. But I'm quite interested to know all about this trip you did to Antarctica, and what was it like training alongside Lewis? And I've got a picture I'll put of Lewis, you and Lewis in your speedos, if I can find it there. Okay, so here's a photo of you looking very lean and fit in this picture. So just tell us a little bit about what the training was like, and what this trip was like to Antarctica. So I went to Antarctica with work back in 2017-18, and that was to go and do. It was when I was working at the British Antarctic Survey, so we were going down to do some ice sampling basically, and bring back some data that we were going to sort of use to validate the climate models that I was running at the time. So the trip I did with Lewis was out to the Isle of Lewis in the Outer Hebrides, and he basically had set himself aside this kind of 10-day training camp that he was going to do just before he flew south to Antarctica. So it was kind of planned as a kind of sort of midway house, if you like, in terms of temperatures, to help him acclimatise before he headed south and did his swim in he planned to swim in a supraglacial lake in Antarctica, and he does it all for basically to raise awareness for protecting the oceans. He's a very successful climate activist. He calls it, Speedo Democracy, I think, or something like that. So he's done a lot of these kind of big high profile swims to
to designate large areas of the ocean as marine protected areas, and he's been quite successful with these. But so he put out a job advert looking for someone to come and train with him in the Outer Hebrides for this 10-day training camp, with a kind of basic plan of swimming and running twice a day, and getting him, fit, fast, and used to the cold water was the idea. So I joined him out there, and yeah, that was it really. It was just sort of as soon as it got light, we were running or swimming, and then just before it got dark again, we were running or swimming. And obviously in December, January, there's not much daylight, so they were quite close together. And I spent most of my time between that just eating, trying to get warm again, and eat tubs of peanut butter to try and keep my weight on.
Yeah. And was that in a wetsuit, or were you just wearing your Speedos?
That was without a wetsuit. Lewis did say to me, because if you've ever seen pictures of him, he's huge. He sort of makes he's broad and he's very tall, and he makes me look like a bit of a midget next to him. So he did sort of bring me aside at the start and said it's okay if you want to wear a wetsuit and don't try. And I think with that I kind of decided I wasn't going to wear a wetsuit, and I'd sort of just sort of go with it. And I'd been, in a way, it kind of worked out quite perfectly, because I kind of got into my first winter swimming without a wetsuit, and it's kind of gradually been getting colder. And the sea, when we left Oban, the sea was about 7 degrees, and I was fairly comfortable in those temperatures for sort of half an hour or so, the sort of durations we might be swimming with Lewis. So that worked quite well. And because he was coming from South Africa, so he was kind of acclimatized to 12 to 15 degrees. So it actually worked quite well, because the first few swims with him, I probably had a bit of an advantage, because I was kind of a bit ahead of the curve, if you like, in terms of acclimatizing to the temperature. So, but that changed quite quickly, because he seems to get used to cold water very, very quickly. And when you're swimming twice a day, it's sort of a lot of training stimulus, I guess, to get you acclimatized. He was very quick, sort of within the first 2 or 3 days. You could sort of tell he was getting more comfortable and sort of temperature adjusted.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had a comment from Karen Heath just saying that usually between 8:45 and 9 there are usually a few seals at the far end of the car park. So if anyone lives in Oban who wants to swim when all this is back to normal, then that's the place to go. And we've got a question from Anne Glass. She said, Max, I have a triathlon, the Starman, potentially still taking place in August, but no swimming means I'm slightly worried about the swim section. Any ideas about what training could help? So if she can't swim, what else could she do to maybe help her?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think it's a difficult one, because I've found before, obviously, if you pick up problems running or something, I can do a lot of cycling, and the fitness tends to transfer quite nicely to running. Where swimming is a completely different different story. I think if you're in the lucky situation where you've got something like a rowing machine, I think that can be quite a specific. Sort of doing lots of work on rowing machines tends to work, just because it is an all over body, and it's a lot of the same kind of upper body muscle groups. Otherwise, I think it's always good to keep up your cardio through running and cycling and whatever cardio work you can do. And then with what the spare time you've got is working on your strength work. So if you've got swim cords or something like that, or you can sort of make up your own kind of bungee cords, that's probably the most specific to sort of setting up exercises to the swimming, to the sort of front crawl stroke. Otherwise, it's sort of a lot of upper body strength work. Really, sort of press ups are brilliant, and sort of plank and core work. But yeah, it's hard to say. I've seen a lot of pictures recently of people setting up paddling pools in their back garden and sort of strapping themselves to the side of it so they can sort of swim in a continuous pool essentially. But it's quite a difficult one to do. I think especially because swimming, so much of it is sort of feel for the water, and I find when I've not been in the water for a couple of weeks, it takes me a good week to get, or a good 3 sessions or so, just to get my feel of the water back.
Is the Starman? Oh, go on. Yep.
I was just going to add in, like, just from like a psychological point of view, even if your swimming is dropping off, everybody's going to be in the same boat as you. So it's not like just you're not swimming; everybody's not swimming. So I don't know if that will help psychologically. Just cane it on the bike. Just get really good at the bike.
Yeah, it's true. If you're a triathlete, then it gives you've got plenty of time to work on the other disciplines at the moment. So.
Everyone's really rubbish at swimming, aren't they? For this.
Yeah. There's a comment here from Simon Willis, and he says, for swim workouts using electric cords, look at Dan at Swim 4Try on Insta, top swim coach. So there's some advice as well, and if you have a look at that. I'm not sure what elastic cords are, but is that what you're talking about? People inside a pool?
Yeah. So,
yeah.
You know, swim cords. You can kind of make your own with essentially a bungee cord and what swimmers use, paddles, to sort of give you a bigger surface area in your hands. You can set them up and you can mimic sort of freestyle stroke with them.
Right. Okay. And then we've got a final question, Max. Just thinking about what are your future plans, goals for looking beyond this current restriction? Have you got some big things that you're aiming to do this year or even into next year?
Yeah. Well, the plan this year was to do a bit more sort of swim run stuff. Last year I did a lot of swimming and swim races and quite a few run races. But it'd be nice to do sort of, a bit more, put the two together into some swim runs. And I've kind of been stepping away from races a bit, so it was kind of doing some more multi-day stuff, some island or fjord hopping up here, I guess, and some sort of big trips that combine the swimming and the mountains and the running. So that was kind of what we had planned. We had some stuff planned for April, for the last for the Easter bank holiday. So that's obviously that's kind of on the back burner now, and just waiting to see when we do go. But yeah, we've got a few sort of more adventures planned. I find I rarely race very well because, as you said earlier, I guess I'm quite intrinsically driven, so I always turn up sort of overtrained and just enjoy running all the time and swimming. So I don't really like tapering or anything. So I think it's better to stay away from races and just do more adventures now. So yeah, got a few on the list, but yeah, just more time to prepare for them at the moment.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you very much. And I'm going to hand back over to Stacey in a minute. But I thought I'd just mention a couple of things that I've been doing recently. And that is, I think I was quite keen to, during this time where people are locked down and can't join together. So I've been doing some live interviews, which I put on this channel on my Facebook page, but I also then put them onto YouTube. So so far I've interviewed 8 people. Ranging from Ian Keith, who I did this week. That was a really interesting interview. Stuart Smith, who's involved in a lot of background things with area events, as well as race organisers, Ian Beattie and John and Shirley Steele. So if you want to see any of those, then if you go along to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/J Kynaston. And if you would like to subscribe, I think I'm up to almost 800. I'd love to get to 1,000. So if you'd like to go along and subscribe, then I'd really appreciate it. And just to let you know, I've got some interviews coming up this week on Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday, I'm interviewing Shane Orley, who's the race director of all the Outer events. So Cape Wrath Ultra and Dragon's Back and the races all the Skyline races. So that's on Tuesday morning, actually at 10. And then Thursday, I'm interviewing Mark Laithwaite, who is the director of the Lakeland 100, Lakeland 50 races. And sadly, that race has just been cancelled for this year as well. But it'd be good to chat to Mark. And then the following week, I'm chatting to James Thurlow, who organises the Northern Traverse and lots of other races and provides all the trackers from Open Adventure. And then Gary Thompson, who does a lot of the course marking and course planning for the Cape Wrath and for the Dragon's Back. So just to let you know, they're coming up as well. So Stacey, do you want to finish off and just tell us a little bit about how things are going and conclude our evening together?
Yeah, no, firstly, just thank you to everyone who's spoken, especially to you, John, for hosting this and this like magic wizardry with Facebook Live that you manage, and everyone who's like been involved, commenting and watching. It's been really great to follow your comments. I probably should have introduced kind of me and Max and Way Outside at the start for anyone who doesn't know. We set up Way Outside exactly a year ago, so this is kind of a 1 year birthday celebration for us, becoming an incorporated business. And in the last year, we hosted an ultra running training camp, and we had about 15 people come along to that, which was really great at, by the way, hostel. We also held our first ever race, which was the 124 race, which was it was a mad idea. It was 24 hours long, running laps through a forest in January in Scotland. It got down to -8, but the winner of the race, he ran 117 miles in 24 hours, and we had 5 people, with 3 men and 2 women, who ran over 100 miles in that race, which was just fab. It like really made the whole night to see people break that sort of distance. And we've done a few other things. We also had the Lewis Pugh training camp, and we've had some articles published, and I don't know, we've done quite a few things, but just kind of focusing on swimming and running, and I like working with beginner runners as well. So I wanted to share a bit about that, and it'd be really great if you give our Facebook page a like. We don't have that many likes, so that would be a nice birthday present to us. I've just wrote down a few things, so we thought we'd try to do a few more things during this time. We've got 3 more weeks at least of lockdown. So we're hoping next weekend to kind of do a bit of a virtual movie festival. So if you have any trail running sort of or swimming movies you'd like to share with us that are between like a minute and 15 minutes long, we're going to create a bit of a movie festival next weekend. And I'm also going to start a intermediate virtual running club. So if any of you are thinking about trying to get from like half an hour to an hour and a half sort of length runs, we'll be doing that together. So I'll share those on Facebook. And then when we're out of lockdown, I'll be then running another beginners running group for anybody who thinks I cannot run. I'd like to run, but I can't do it. You're the people I want. So that's called Sofa to Summit, and it's trail running, and we summit a hill at the end of it. So if you're local to Oban, please do come along. And I just want to say a really big thank you to a couple of people who have really supported Way Outside throughout this last year. And then that was Kirsty and Ran at By the Way Hostel. They've been amazing. And Ellen Katanak at Glengarry House. Without them, we wouldn't have done hardly anything. So massive shout out to them. And then to Malcolm at Beta Running, who's just really believed in us the whole way. And whenever I've had a mad panic about anything, I just phone Malcolm and he gets me back on track, which is often actually. That happens quite a lot. And yeah, John as well, for being here and helping us out with this. I've written down here, but I can't even read my own writing now. Just yeah, everyone. Just everyone. Just thank you, everyone who sponsored us, who helped sponsor the race as well. But yeah, so really great, and we'd love to hear your running and swimming stories. So even if you just want to, I really love hearing people's stories. So if you want to just Facebook me a story that you've got or what you're up to, I generally want to know about it. And if you want to chat with us or come out and come swimming or running with us, just drop us a message. But yeah, so thank you so much for being here, and give our page and our Instagram a follow. That would be brilliant. I think we've got a little movie. John, do you have the 124 movie?
Yeah.
So this Simon made this. Simon Willis made this for us, and I was meant to have a virtual exhibition going now, and it's completely failed. So I've took it off, and I'll get all the posts up individually after the event. Have I missed anything? Yeah.
I just want to say as well, I've been putting some comments on. People have really enjoyed this evening, so there's been lots of nice comments. Up there, Barbara Sayers, thank you. Really enjoyed listening to everyone. Tanya Shields, really enjoyed listening to everyone's experience tonight. Thank you. Kirsten Cowling said really enjoyed this. Moira Lewis, it's been a great evening. Thank you. So lots of nice feedback from that as well. Moira Lewis says you should restart the triathlon up Loch Etive, kayak, run and cycle. So there's a challenge for you. Okay.
Yeah, send us your race ideas.
Yeah.
Apparently we're not shy about challenges. So yeah. What races do you guys want? We want to do some swim run races, like affordable ones, not like these ones where you need to remortgage your house to do. So that's like where we'd like to go with this.
Yeah. Okay, so we put this film on, and then we'll just come on afterwards just to say a final goodbye. But it only lasts just over a minute, doesn't it? But it gives a really good taste of the Tyndrum 24-hour, 12-hour races. So I'll put that on now.
It's the middle of winter in the Highlands in Scotland. We've got snow on the mountains, and they're going to be doing a 5-mile trail lap around Tyndrum with 3 river crossings in it. We've got 3 races on. We've got a 6-hour, a 12-hour and a 24-hour race. How did you find over 100 people to sign up for this madness? I can't remember when we decided it was 24 hours, and it became winter because we decided it needs to be in the off season to benefit the local community the most. January just seemed a bit free, so we just put it on. But there's quite a big ultra running scene in Scotland. We've got quite a lot of really experienced ultra runners here. We've also got quite a few newbies as well, so we've got some people coming out, and don't ask me why you would pick this as your first winter, dark. But no, I'm really glad they're all here. Our biggest priority is keep them safe, then make sure they have a good time.
Okay, so that was it. That gave people a really good little taste. And is that something you're going to put on again, Stacey, or are you still thinking about it?
No, we will. It's a bit hard for us to do it at the moment to even start. So we had some, I don't know if you guys know, we had some land issue trouble. So there was a landslide that happened on the course just before the race, and this year we were looking at cancelling the race 10 days before it happened because of the landslide, and Max was like, don't tell them that. But it was fine, it was sorted, and Network Rail came in and saved the day actually. So we need to find out if the land is going to get fixed. So until we know more about that, we don't know what we can do. We're hoping we'll put on something though, even if the land isn't fixed. So that one's play it by ear. The other problem is because I'm funding through Scotland, so I I've sat on one of the meetings that we had, and nobody knows what's going to happen going forward and how long these things are going to last, and when we can have mass participation events again. And so even us thinking about a January event is still quite a big question mark. So we're just playing it by ear, and I think we'll start planning it and hope that we can get it going in January. So that's the goal. And we'd really like to have a training camp in November for the event as well, which was something we didn't have time to organise last year. So we're looking for, Tyndrum 24 training camp, and then Tyndrum 24 in some form come January.
Yeah. If I could just just saying, Stacey, there's a lovely comment from Jenny MacDonald. She says, for those of you who haven't met Max and Stacey, please do. They are very unassuming and encouraging. Way Outside is definitely worth the journey to participate, and the area is fabulous for running, cycling and especially swimming. Way Outside is tremendous.
Oh,
And a comment from Lisa Marshall. Great evening, thank you. Looking forward to getting back in the mountains and jumping in the coal loch even more now post-lockdown.
Oh, that sounds so good. Jen's in my beginner running group, and this running group have just kept me watching their comments in our little WhatsApp groups. Just kind of kept me going, really. They've been absolutely fantastic. Anyone local, if you want to start getting running, do come along to our beginners running group. Thank you. Just thanks to everyone who's getting dark here, who supported us, and we're hoping to do some bigger things next year. It'll be 2021 now with the lockdown, but do come up. It'll be fab, and we can take people cycling now as well. We've just done our cycle leader about 2 weeks before lockdown. We got our cycle leadership qualification as well, so it's grand. But thanks everyone so much, and please stay well and stay healthy and keep exercising and training the best you can, and see you on the other side of this. Thanks again. Yeah,
and goodbye for me as well. Thank you. I've really enjoyed it tonight. It's been nice to meet everybody, and thanks for all your comments. So we'll finish there. Good night.
Night.